Good morning. Good morning, Facebook, Instagram family, TikTok, and YouTube. Thank you guys for joining me this morning on what is and will be our last Sunday in the year of 2024. Okay? This is our last episode for the year, for Sunday. Okay? And thank you guys for coming on board. It was somewhat impromptu. I came on this Sunday morning. I know many of you are probably on your way to church and what have you. So for those of you who have signed on, man, thank you. Thank you for coming on and viewing us. Any music that you may hear in the background, we don't own the rights to. Any comments, questions, anything that you care to share, hit us in the boxes down below. Let us know how you feel. Let us know whether you enjoyed what I may have talked about, or if you disagree. And that's perfectly okay. That's the way we grow, because there's a saying that goes, anything that's measured is improved, right? So if we did something half-assed, and no matter what it is, and if someone tells you that maybe if you'd have done it this way, maybe if you'd have done it that way, maybe if you'd have done it a little further. So measurement is for correction, all right? And that's mainly important for the building of men, all right? To measure a man is to improve a man. So those are the things that we're going to kind of talk about this morning. I went to a function last night, and I had a great time, and I just want to thank everyone that was there, everyone that I hadn't seen in a while, and Happy New Year's to you all. You all know who you are, and thanks for inviting me. I'm going to try and make more events like that in the coming year, because this is where you really get a chance to grow, and you have your hand on the pulse of society and of the people. I have been isolated for the past 5 years. Well, actually for the past 30 years I've been isolated, but I've been self-imposed for the past 5 years. And I can be honest with you, I ran into quite a few people that looked like someone that I'd known in my past. And when I greeted them as such, that was not them. And one gentleman last night, I saw him, I greeted him, and I spoke his name. And he obliged, and we talked a little more. I told him that he appeared to be getting younger, right? So I asked how was his sister, and he said, "My who?" And I said, "Your sister," and I named her. And he said, "I don't know who that is." I said, "You know who that is?" He said, "No." I said, "Your name is such and such, right?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "But that's not me." His name was the same as the guy that I mistaken him for. And there's a reason why he looked younger, because this guy was. And I was somewhat embarrassed by that. And met quite a few ladies, man, that I'd known and gone to school with, and they introduced themselves. But first they called me over, and they had huge smiles on their faces, but I was in sheer panic because I didn't recognize any of them. And after we talked, good morning. All right. After we spoke a little bit, I although I still did not recognize them, I was familiar in which the circles that I had known them for. So, needless to say, it was a pretty long night, and okay, all right, okay, and I enjoyed myself, and of course we had our smoke. We sat out on the patio, and we discussed everything, man, from real estate to family to holidays to politics. So today, I am pretty much just going to rehash one of the conversations that we had last night, and I was asked what was my position on the campaign between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Okay, and we're going to get into that in a minute, right? So, you guys pull up a chair and join me. Okay, we're gonna fire up this old stogie here. Mm-hmm. Well, at any rate, man, I was asked by a group of brothers. We sat down and we talked, man, all things, and these were guys that I've known for a while, and there was one or two there that I'd never met before. And we sat there and we discussed politics and our choices the whole bit. And I was asked out of the two candidates, which one did I vote? And I let them know that I couldn't vote, and so I didn't. And they asked, well, who did I want to win, right? And I said, well, I'm kind of leaning towards Kamala Harris. And here's the thing: I was only voting from emotion. I was voting from a standpoint that all the people that were younger than me, and they were out pushing, man, and fighting, and they was on the campaign trail, and they were doing certain things, and I saw their energy, and I saw their zeal and their commitment behind trying to get her elected. Okay, so I said I'll go with her. Now this is an interesting dynamic, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. And it baffles a lot of people, but I can explain pretty much any of my decisions that I make. I rarely do anything haphazardly. And some people say that I'm somewhat anal retentive because of that, but no, I'm not. I just try to make a rational decision in most of my decisions. And then from there, I just throw many of them up to God. Not even a chance. I just throw it up to God. And I just pray that He protect me from any dangers or harms that may be before me. So anyway, because of my family and friends, and that was pulling for Kamala Harris, I pretty much leaned their way because I saw their energy. And since I wasn't voting, man, I didn't have a really huge opinion. But what I did let them know, right, they said, well, okay, first off, why are you voting for Kamala Harris? I said, well, I sort of want to see her straighten out things that she and Biden were doing, and where he didn't have enough time to get things done, and maybe she can galvanize the party, the Democratic Party, and they can pull it together, and they can kind of get things going. Then she's a HBCU alumni, and in hopes that she would do things for the black colleges and what have you, for the colleges period, because they're banning books, they're shutting down libraries, and they're doing all these things. So I was hoping that she can be for that. As far as the border, I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't work, So the only thing, the only way a Mexican is a threat to me is if I had a menial job, right? That would be the only threat that a Hispanic would present to me. So since I'm no longer in the employment field, there's no threat there, right? So it's like it's like going into the 2-minute warning and you're leading by. Well, not now. That's not even a good thing to say. It's like you got a few seconds in the game and you're leading by 21 points. Put it that way. I mean, you only got say a minute or two. I know Kansas City Chiefs quarterback can possibly score some kind of way. He can pull a rabbit out his ass, man, and he can score 3 touchdowns in less than a minute. So with that said, I said that's why I went with her. And I said, to be honest with you though, I really wasn't a fan of hers, and I didn't like her when I was incarcerated because she did some brothers and some Hispanics real dirty in the state of California when she was the city attorney for Oakland, and then when she became the state's attorney for the state of California, and when she became a senator, she tried to change a few things, but she had already created some real bad law. But one thing about politics, man, if you live long enough, you get a do-over. If people vote you in, you get a chance to change your position, because you got to keep in mind, it's just like the seasons. If it's summertime, a politician is gonna support bikinis and swim trunks. When it's wintertime, the politician is going to support overcoats. You understand what I'm saying? Now, if he was supporting overcoats in the summertime, you'd think he's really out of his mind. And if he was supporting swimsuits in the winter, even further. But you have to understand, their vote and their personality and their loyalty, it goes the way the wind blows. So they're all full of shit. So I was only looking towards her because, as I said, if anybody that's voted in stay in long enough and can kind of get their agenda moving, if there's anything it is that favors you, they can almost get it done. They can just about get it done, right? Good morning, good morning. So that's why I wanted her. 4 years in and out, man. And really, to be honest with you, in politics today, in a presidential office, you really only have 2 years to get down, because you also have the midterm election, and 9 times out of 10, whoever controls the House or the Senate has a chance to lose it. And if they lose it, they're going to be challenged, they're going to be filibustered, and they're going to be a whole bit, and you're not going to be able to push your agenda through, right? So that's why I went with her, and I made the point that I really didn't care for her when she was the city and the state's attorney of California, right? So they say, well, why didn't you like Trump? And I basically said that the only thing that I didn't like about Trump was the January 6th debacle. His arrogance and his personality and all that, really didn't make any deal to me, because, the average person that's sitting where he's sitting, and I'm talking about in society with his wealth and everything, you're going to have, and if you're not humble, man, the whole bit, you're going to have that arrogance and that cockiness the whole bit, right? So I didn't like the way the things that he did concerning January 6th, but that was a show of power. That was a show of privilege as well. And since we don't have that, right, the fact that we don't have that, the fact that I don't have that, I mean, it really rubs me the wrong way when I see someone taking advantage of it, and I don't have access to privilege that way. As a black man, and as a black man that has had a large income, there are certain things that were privy to me that wasn't privy to my other brothers and sisters. And I understood that, and I understood their angst and their grief and that anger sometimes when things would be given to me or things would come easily. But I would never have anyone with me where I'd rub that in their face, you know. So those were the things that, a few things that I didn't like about the Trump situation. Because way back, I was a huge Trump fan before many of these people who are voting for him and loving on him now very, very rarely has an idea of who Trump was back then. You know, when he owned the airlines and when he owned the casinos and what have you, right? And the football team, right? So I said because of that, and I didn't like the way he handled that, and he was pushing his weight around. But the truth of it is, he was getting a lot of his shit done. You know what I'm saying? And he just faded that bullshit, man, the January 6th shit for 4 years, man. He ducked that shit, you know, called it, you know, what he called it, what you call that news, when it's a lie, whatever it is, fake news. He said, fake news, fake news, fake news. They threw every chair at him when it came to courts and charges. And shit, man. He exonerated himself. He forced their hand, and they have to drop the charges on him, right? You know, you really can't stay mad long at anyone that has that fight, has that kind of fight and that kind of resilience in them. But I still was going for her based on that. And that was the things that I didn't like about him, right? So then I was asked the question, all right, how do I feel now that Trump won and she lost? I said, it's like watching a good football game, man. You know, your team lost, the other team won. Shit, after that, let's get a bite to eat. I mean, the game's over. Who gives a shit, man? Next week, they're going to have a chance to do it again, right? So that's what politics at that level had become for me. And who's ever is president, there's nothing I can do to change it. Nothing, right? And don't get me wrong, everybody's blaming Biden for giving his son clemency, pardon. Everybody's like, oh man, that's wrong, he's dirty, he's this, that, and the third, right? Well, let me tell you something. Had Trump not won, Biden probably wouldn't have freed his son. Biden freeing his son was a finger to Trump and all the other Republicans, right? And helping his son. Had it not been for Donald Trump, right? Had it not been for Donald Trump, Hunter Biden would not be free. And what I mean by that is this. Biden was so pissed off that Trump won. He didn't have no other way to, give him the shaft. And then he wanted to follow a playbook from Trump's campaign and his rule, if you will, because Trump was going to pardon himself. He didn't have to. They dropped the charges. Excuse me a second. Let me get this down. So, Donald Trump gave Biden the courage to free his son. So for all intent and purposes, Hunter Biden should be glad that Donald Trump won. Because had not, his dad wasn't going to pardon him because, there'd have been too much flack and too much get back. But, but when your back's up against the wall and it's already obvious that you're out of there, the whole bit. That was your last pebble to throw, man. Why not do it? Shit, I would have done the same. See, and we try to live by all these laws that they place before us, and we try to honor this, and we're not getting the same privilege. So whatever opportunity you have, man, I don't care what it is, take advantage of it. If you're on a freeway, man, and there aren't any cops on it, the whole 9 yards, man, and you just felt like driving 90, do it. Look. The sign says 70, or it says 55, or whatever it is, 60. That's fine. That's what the sign says. But there's not any laws on the street. And I'm not promoting you break the law, but goddamn, man, sometimes live a little, man. Live on the wild side a bit. That's what Biden did. But it's because of Trump that he did it. All right? So the question I was asked was, wow. The question I was asked was, did I think Trump did I think Trump was going to do anything that was good for the people? Right? Listen, it's very bad for any one person. It's very hard. It's very hard. It's almost impossible for any one person to do harm or do bad to everyone. Right? I mean, even your captors feed you. Right? And at some point, man, after they've starved you and you become emaciated, no matter what it is that they feed you, you look forward to it. So, and it's crazy, but if anybody treats you bad long enough, man, you'll start to embrace it as good. And that's not a good thing. But the point I'm making is this, right? Let's talk about the bad things, right? See, Trump has endorsed or embraced Elon Musk and a couple other billionaires, right? There's a sign in that, right? Because Trump really didn't care for any other billionaires. I don't care if they had more money than him. He lied and said that he had the most, right? Right? So, with him embracing Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, and all these other people, I see that as a humbling effect. All right. In his last presidency, he was against all the billionaires. Man, he was talking about trying to shut their businesses down, cut the things that would have helped them to increase their businesses. He had them go before Congress and all these things. So it's almost like he hated billionaires, those who were wealthier than he, right? So the mere fact that he's brought them on to join him, that's a sign of humility, right? First and foremost, right? What I don't like, he's talking about, he brought these guys on so they can fix or get control of the fiscal budget, right? Now, we know fiscal means a year, and budget means money that's allocated or placed aside for certain purposes, right? Well, he has Elon Musk, who's going to spearhead this, right? Now, Musk has almost more money than America, right? Right at $500 billion. So this is very, very impressive to Trump. So he's going to bring on Elon Musk and the Indian gentleman that ran for presidency, right? And he have them on, and they're going to deal with the budget and try to get the spending down, right? So now let me tell you something. See, when you go in a room and you plan for a budget, you draw a pie, You'll draw a circle. And then you slice it up percentage-wise to all the monies that's going to these different platforms and what have you. Say sort of transportation, defense, roads and highways, things of that nature, right? So when you put money aside for that, it all has to fit within that pie. I don't care what it is that you do. Because you can't make the pie larger. You can't increase the circle. So now what you do addition by subtraction, meaning that you slice some of the other, you carve some of the other slicings just a little smaller, or you cut them up. So one of the first things that Trump said that he wants to do, right? He wants to get rid of education. He wants to cut the budget for education, right? So now most schools are going to have to depend on donors. They're going to have to depend on private donors and what have you, right? So we're going to cut out the Board of Education, number one. Number two, he wants to cut out or either decrease Medicare, right? If you decrease Medicare, they want to cut out some of the funding that's going towards Social Security. They don't want to cut out all of Social Security. They don't. But what happens is this, though. If they cut out or they slice Medicare, a lot of you, including myself, are going to suffer from that, right? Well, now, you're going to take money from other areas to place in other areas. Now, keep in mind what CEOs do, because Elon Musk is a CEO, and most of these people are coming at this from a business perspective. And what Trump is not understanding is this. And I don't see they're smarter than me, by leaps and bounds. But damn, I'm no idiot. I know that when you are the CEO, you're looking to earn money, right? So if you're the CEO, your company is already earning money, right? It's your job to see to it that the company keeps most of the money that it earns. So what do when you're cutting budgets for your company and you want to save more money? You're going to increase the productivity and you're going to decrease the manpower. So that means that, first of all, you're going to lay off a bunch of people. You're going to lay off people because that's an expense that doesn't change. It grows, right? When you have to give lifestyle increase or the economy or economic raises and what have you, right? Now you have to spend more money. So what do? You're a company that's making so much money in a fiscal year, and you're making billions, sometimes hundreds of billions, right? But you feel you can trim the fat. So by trimming the fat, that means that you save most of the money because that's one less expense that you have to pay. And the quickest thing to go is letting go of these employees so you don't have to pay the wages. So that's going to be the first thing that a CEO does, right? No more paid vacations, maybe no more paid holidays. If you're working by a clock, we're going to cut the lunch break. You follow me? So all of these are things that CEOs do. Now, there's nothing else that they can do But if they control the budget, they control. I mean, they control. They control the reserve and the whole 9 yards. Well, what they can do is try to get them to print more money. But you have to have a purpose for that. So now what these people are going to do when they get in, they're going to look at that circle. They're going to toss out what they feel they don't need. Now you got to understand, these are billionaires, so they can cut to the fat, because no matter what the situation calls for, or the prices are risen on our food and everything, they don't care because they can afford it. Well, it becomes a proverbial game of chicken. Who can hold out? He with the most wins. Because at some point, those who are lacking are going to have to tap out. Because you're starving, you're not earning any money, you need a job. So now, Amazon laid off over 10,000 employees the first part of this year. They laid off quite a few more as this year went on. And here's what they're doing. See, it looks good because they laid off 10,000 over here, but you're going to open up a plant on the other side of the country and the whole bit, right? So now you're going to hire, because all these people aren't going to follow you and travel. So you're going to open up and you're going to say we're creating jobs for 7,500 people, but you just laid off 10,000 over on the other side of the river, right? So all you're doing is switcherooing, and it looks like you're doing a whole lot of good things, but you aren't. So now that's going to be 10,000 more people back into the unemployment line, right? So you're going to toss out the budget for education. You're probably going to decrease some of the other government funding for other programs. When they talk about art and the Smithsonian and all these things, these people don't give a shit about that, man. They're going to cut this thing to the fat. And am I the only one seeing this? Because see, this, from their perspective, this is the only thing that makes sense, right? So now after you've kicked all these people out, you kicked out 10,000. That's from one company. And then some of the other companies are going to do the same thing. So all these people are back into the unemployment line, right? So now you're going to impose tariffs on, you're going to impose tariffs on Mexico, China, Canada, and Europe, on whatever, and Japan, on whatever items that they're shipping to the United States. Now let me tell you what that does, right? See, there's a Chinese car that is on the same level as a Rolls Royce or a Bentley. As a matter of fact, it's even more luxurious on the inside. And in Chinese money, this car cost anywhere between $30,000 and $40,000, whereas the Rolls Royce and the Bentley are costing $400,000, $500,000, right? Well, keep in mind, Rolls Royce and Bentleys aren't made in the United States either. So there's going to be a tariff on them as well. So now that $40,000 product, if there's a tariff that's placed on this vehicle, China's going to have to pay more. So now China's going to have to charge you more. So now that vehicle now is going to go up to $100,000. It's going to go up to the $80,000 to $100,000 because it's going to double in its cost, right? Because they're saying that these people are cutting into our markets, and they're not really paying it forward, or whatever the situation may be. Well, how it's paid forward is the cut in the cost to the consumer. So now, if you place a tariff on these products, now the consumer has to pay more. Now you're working on those Americans that are employed but barely making it. And now all these items are taxable, have been taxed. So now that's additional cost. So now the people who are working can't really afford these products. So you got those that you pushed out the door, and now you're having those that you're kind of forcing out the door. Well, you had those you forced out the door, now you have those that you're pushing out the door because they're not going to be able to afford any products. And some of the most inexpensive things are imported here. If tissue was made overseas, man, tissue will probably cost us anywhere between $6 and $7 a roll. Well, these are the things that I somewhat dislike, right? And I just know that we have to figure it out as a people, not just blacks, but everybody that's living below the poverty level and struggling, and especially those who are hanging on by a job, hanging on by a thread to a job. All of you need to figure something out on how to come together and how to build up your finances in order for you to continue to live, in order for you to continue to afford your daily habits, your daily necessities, right? Because this is what Space Force and this is what Donald Trump's cabinet is about to do, man. They're about to run it. They're about to run them up, right? That's what I dislike. Now, excuse me a second. Now, people ask me, well, okay, well, what is it that you like? Here's what I like. As I alluded to earlier, I said different Donald Trump. In his weird way, I see humility. I see humility. And I see the situation whereas he says that if I'm not smart enough to do something, I'm going to be smart enough to get the people who can. And he's went out, he's reached a lot of people who are leading in their industries, right? And at the same time, they're going to put the squeeze on our budget and put the squeeze on unemployment, the whole bit. I think that there are going to be a lot of opportunities for those who are in business, right? Trump doesn't even talk the same. See, when he got in the first time, he just had a grandiose idea on how he wanted to do shit. And what I said earlier, when you get a chance to measure something, when you get a chance to do it twice, you get a chance to do it better. See, because what is measured, right, is improved. So now that he's going to be in office, and he understands that he's only going to be in office for 4 years, he can't spend all that time, man, trying to figure out a way to be president until he dies. He's going to be 80 years old, right? He's 78 now. So he's going to be 82 years old. He's going to be older than Biden, right? So he has a limited time. Excuse the noise, y'all. So he doesn't have all this time to do all these different shenanigans, man, and all the other bull crap that he was doing his first term, right? So he's going to get right down to the brass tacks. There's going to be a lot of things that's going to open up, man. But you see, health care and all this, man, he doesn't have time to try to destroy Obamacare. You just had 16 million people enroll in Obamacare for this year, and they're extending it, right? So there's going to be another 2-point-something million that's going to sign up for Obamacare. And there's nothing that he can create that's going to sign up that many people that fast, that quickly, right? But health, education, and welfare, right? These are the things that we really need. These are the cornerstone, man. I'm talking about, social injustice, health, education, employment. These are things that, there are 5 things that we truly need, and these are the 5 things, right? Which one escapes me for now. But the fact of the matter is, they have to have a plan in place for education. You can't, there are many of us my age and right behind, man. Say baby boomers and generation, not Generation X, but I even forget what you call them. But the bottom line is this, though. Many of us are in the age and the era of Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare, right? That would kill off an entire population, man. You know what I'm saying? That would kill off an entire population. But you see, if you're a politician and if you're filthy rich, you're wealthy, you got insurance. You got free insurance for life. I mean, how much you think Elon Musk insurance costs a year? Nothing. He has enough money to buy an insurance company, a bunch of them. Oh, he probably has a fund, man, that is keeping insurance companies in business. So no matter what happens to him or his family, they will receive free health care, and what have you. Now, I tell you this. I was watching this morning where Rihanna she did a deal with her kids and had them in a fashion show, and where they would get $10 million in their retirement fund. So people look at that and say, man, Rihanna's so smart, man. That's the same thing Jay-Z did. That's the same thing Nas did. See, when you're playing with a lot of money like that, what they did for their kids the whole bit, that wasn't the smart thing. That wasn't the smartest thing they did. The smartest thing they did was to earn the money. Once they earn that money, man, everything else becomes easy. If you want to set up a trust for your family, if you want to set up a fund, an LLC for your family, a corporation, to whereas they get paid a percentage on what you would have gotten. See, that $10 million, that's $10 million that Rihanna would have earned, or it would have been allocated. But when she put it there, and then whatever the pot brought in, $10 million would go to her kids. If it didn't go to her kids, it was going to go to her anyway, right? So she wasn't so much genius at doing that. The money the availability of money allowed her to do that, right? And Jay-Z, Beyonce, and including Nas, if I was a Grammy Award winning entertainer and what have you, and I'm singing, Anybody that breathes or farts on an album, they get royalty. They get a paycheck. That's just how simple and easy that is. And then you get all these other people on here, these hacks, they're telling you what you do for your family, the whole bit. Man, I'm barely making enough to eat. I don't want to tie no money up, a few kibbles and bits so my family can be okay when they get to be damn near 90 years old. I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? And by that time, they should have learned how to earn some money for themselves. Okay? We